this work is about connection. And connection is what this world needs right now. It always needed it, but it needs it even more so than ever. We live in a world where many people feel separate. They feel separate as individuals. They feel separate as countries. There's a lot, even though there's such big globalization happening, the disconnect between individual hearts has never been greater. So this work is something that profoundly heals this notion of being separate by showing us that we're not. That we have a connection at a heart level that we are largely unaware of. And that informs us all of the time of our place in our world and in this universe. It is the mind that produces the separation, that talks about individualism and uniqueness and specialness and having to do it all by yourself. But at the heart level, we're all the same. Because the language of the heart are feelings. And our feelings are universal. Bert Hellinger, when he started to do this work, he defined a few universal laws that he saw operating in family systems. And he called them the orders of love. He noticed that in a family system, everybody has to belong. But it goes for any system that you are a part of. If you're a part of it, you have to belong. You cannot just be pushed out, and you cannot just be forgotten. You have a place. Everybody has a place. But very often, that place gets lost. It might get lost in a row of siblings. If one sibling dies and is never talked about, and especially if it's a miscarriage or a stillbirth, if the parents don't remember, or if they don't want to remember because it's too painful, if they never tell the following children about that child or about that pregnancy that didn't even see life, then the other children lose their order. The first living child is the first child, but she or he is really the second child. So confusion starts happening in families. We deal with this confusion here in family constellations to give everybody their rightful place. When somebody is left out or pushed out or forgotten, somebody is always making up for that life with their own. Unconsciously. Not knowing what they're doing and not knowing why they can't shine in their own life, where they always feel invisible, why they may suffer from depression, or display character traits or physical traits, or share the same illness as a person that is no longer visible in the family system. And that goes on for generations. If the family system is not made aware, and if that place is not given back to the person who owns it and who rightfully belongs there, everybody else's order is screwed up. It's as simple as that. Another order that Bert Hellinger defined, and which we continuously see displayed in family constellations, is that the order between parents and children gets confused. Parents are the givers of life. They pass on that torch from their ancestors. With their own life, they create new life and then nurture it until it can live on its own. And so we pass on this life force that we have been given and this opportunity for unfoldment. We pass it on to our children. But so often the children don't get that kind of loving. They don't get that big, life-enforcing, unconditional love. Because their parents didn't get it. And the grandparents didn't have it. And the great-grandparents didn't have it. Somewhere it got blocked up by an event in life that caused immense suffering or confusion, where hearts closed and couldn't really feel that big love anymore. When life hits us in its various ways, the tendency to become overwhelmed, especially if the adults have already been overwhelmed children, so the tendency to become overwhelmed is so great that we don't want to feel. We don't want to feel that grief. We don't want to feel that fear. We don't want to feel confusion and all of those anxieties that come along. So we close our heart up, and then we wonder why we can't feel love and joy and hope and exuberance and bliss and all these feelings that reside in the heart that give us a lot of energy. You can't have it both ways. If you want to have an open heart and feel all of these expansive feelings, you have to feel the other feelings as well. And it's our task as humans and our path to come to a place where our heart is open and these feelings can live side by side. And where we resonate with other human beings when they feel these feelings. Where we are infected with joy by someone else's joy. And where we share compassionately their grief, if we can and if it's helpful to them. Then places around the earth that experience famine or war or genocide, it's not just stories on the news anymore. If your heart is open, you resonate with that human fate. And you send love that way. And you're not isolating yourself, you're not isolating them. And maybe you will be spurred into action. Send them some money. Or help someone in your neighborhood. Or even travel down there and become a relief worker. Anything's possible, really, when your heart is open and it speaks to you of right action. But first you have to feel it. You have to feel all of it. And you have to develop a fearless heart that's not afraid to feel. Not afraid to resonate. Not afraid to cry. Why are we so afraid? Because most adults still have an overwhelmed child inside. A child that felt from their own family and their parents the burdens that resulted from the stories and life circumstances coming from the ancestors from generations ago. As a child, when we get born into these families, we don't have a mind to discern. We don't have reason to understand. We cannot interpret events. All we do is feel. Everything. And it can be quite overwhelming, what we feel. So as children grow up and become young adults, and they develop a mind, and develop reason and logic, they are trying to get a grip on their heart and all these feelings that they felt that they don't know what to do with, and nobody explains it to them, and they say, don't cry, or don't acknowledge what the child is feeling. So when the mind is developed, it just kind of pushes all the feelings down, and we get into our head and we become thinkers. And our left brain becomes really active. And it's trying to tell us how to live. And at first that works really well. I mean, it gives young people a sense of empowerment when they can finally escape that heavy load that they've been carrying on their heart and push it away with thoughts of, well, it was because of that, and and then they may go to therapy and talk about it, which is great because they get coping skills and they have tools to deal with the overwhelm, but it doesn't make the overwhelm go away. Nothing that your mind can do is going to heal your heart. So all of that stuff gets pushed underground into the subconscious, and very often at that time, the body develops illness. Sometimes the mind develops illness, sometimes the heart develops illness, but very often, if there is anything latently in the family, especially like chronic illness, it has its seed often in the teenage years. Allergies and asthma and diabetes and other illnesses that may run in families already, then will express what the heart is not expressing and feeling anymore. And then people become adults, full-fledged adults, and they have marriages that are all based on these latent feelings. And the way we pick our partners, it's not really so much, how we feel about them, but they help us stay with the strategies that we have developed. We pick partners really not so much because they're so compatible with us, but we pick them based on these patterns that we're already running on the underground. And then we have children, and then we get to be middle-aged, and then we get to be in a constellation workshop. If we're lucky. If we're lucky. Because a lot of people aren't. They are on drugs, they take a lot of pills to deal with the feelings that they can't cope with and that they don't know how to get rid of, and they are sitting like demons on their back. We have to get to this place, because this is where we are human. This is where we are the same. This is where life happens. If your heart is open, you will feel so alive. You feel so present in this moment, because you experience. The heart experiences. The mind only gives us a story about the experience. But it is in the heart that we're in this moment, and we drive through this beautiful spring, and with every magnolia tree in full bloom, our heart just opens with the joy of that beauty. It's more than just a sight. Everything becomes an experience. And some experiences, yes, they touch us more and they rock us in our foundation, but when our heart is open and our backpack is emptied, we just go with it. We're like a tree that is strong and young and flexible, and a wind comes and it bends, and the wind stops, and the tree is upright again. And stronger, because the roots develop more when the tree is being shaken. Our foundation becomes stronger. So all this I have seen in 15 years with this work, it happens for people, especially if they engage in this work for a while. You can have a great experience with your first constellation. and you can empty that part of your backpack. But if you really want to arrive in your heart and live, you have to practice that. Because we're all, me included at one time, I had forgotten. I'd forgotten how to cry and forgotten how to feel. My mind was super active. I wanted to take a hammer to it because it wouldn't shut up. You know? So this work gives us this practice of just feeling. You become a representative for somebody in their constellation, and without having a story, your heart will resonate, your heart will feel something, and you will express that feeling, and you will practice. Oh, it's not so hard to be sad. Oh, I can do this. Oh. And in the course of that, all of these childhood issues, the traumas, the feelings that you felt were in your family, they start disappearing. And the way they disappear is not like they didn't never happen, but they just become a story. They have no more emotional charge. When you think of past suffering, of past trauma, of terrible frights or horrible events in your family, and you think back on them after doing a constellation, no, they're just a story. They still, you know, they happened to you, but they might as well have happened to someone else. You feel that remote from it when your heart is clear and you're no longer carrying that feeling. Especially these feelings that come from generations past. With each generation, they tend to become bigger and larger and heavier. So the longer a family carries that, you know, the harder it is for a person to bear that load. It can also seem really hard to get rid of it. But you will find that in this work, it's not that hard. The initial intention to sit here may be hard. But once it's underway, you know, this is what we want. This is what our heart wants. It wants to be in this energy. It wants to be alive. It wants to shed all of that is not belonging to our own lives. So when we give back to our parents that which is theirs, that they have acquired from their parents perhaps, it's an amazing lightening that happens. And our hearts can open and receive what the parents do have to give. You know, very often we say my parents don't have to give anything. They're closed, they're hard, they're not available, they never wear. I can't imagine how that would change all of a sudden. Yeah. But our perspective of our parents is very limited. We still have a child's view on our parents. And we remember only our child experiences of them. And I always like to give the picture of a little mouse next to an elephant. The children are the mice, and they're standing next to their parents, who are the elephants, with a whole fate and a story of their own, and a childhood and a courtship and giving birth to you, and all of these experiences that, you know, as a child you were not there for. So you did not take that into consideration. All you have is your own experience of what you feel in their heart. So you only see the toe of the elephant. In this work, when we shed light on the greater picture of why people feel the way they feel and what the ancestors experienced to set in motion this emotional pattern or the physical illness, our view enlarges. We all of a sudden see more of that elephant. And we start understanding more of their circumstances and why they couldn't give us what they didn't give us, and the context of their own lives. And our heart starts having compassion for these people as people who happen to be our parents. Whenever we change our perspective, our reality changes. Because it's the way we look into our life that makes life show up. So if we change our picture here through a constellation, and not just mentally, but in our heart, the way we feel about ourselves and we feel about somebody else, our reality changes. That life story that we have and that we think we are the product of just becomes another story. And the present then can be written as we want it. That's the magic of what we do here, and there's so many more layers that I've discovered over the years. And I'm really excited to share that with you.